So, I mean, obviously the 3 games being losses is not what you want, but how do you kind of snap out of that now that you get to be at home on a Saturday at a 7 o'clock, like a normal start in comparison to these last couple of weeks? How do you utilize that to generate some momentum here?
Yeah, I think like all the games we lost were right there, right? Like obviously a couple of tough overtime losses. Like you take the positives out of those games. But yeah, I think just being back at home, knowing we're going to be at home for kind of the last 3 games, kind of gets you back into that normal routine. You know, dinners, lunches, shoot around. So kind of just allows us to be like who we are and just be normal again.
Albany is a team that you have familiarity with, being right down the I-90. I mean, you played them really early on in this season, though. So how much different does this team look at this point in the season?
Yeah, they got some injuries and, you know, a little bit different the first game we played them. But, again, that's where video and stuff comes in. So we've scouted them pretty well. And obviously they're a young, tough team. They work really hard. So, again, like we can't take anything for granted. Every time, every game in this league is tough. So we got to respect those guys, and they're a good group of guys over there.
On the face-off dot last week, it was Tyler Hall's back in there, being one of those guys that can also come back and play defense. Do you think that was really where he benefited in being the one at the face-off dot last week?
Yeah, I think him getting healthy too helped, and just, you know, again, like him being able to play kind of defense too helps a little bit. And I thought he did a great job. Again, I think Joe did a great job too for, you know, the 2 games kind of getting thrown into the fire. So, you know, both guys bring a little bit different games, but I think both are good at the face-off.
You go back to this defensive end, and we've talked about it all year being a group that kind of runs by committee. How has it kind of faltered in any way in these last 3 weeks with the losses? Has there been just mental lapses on the defensive end, or what has it really been?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe a little bit. Like, again, I think that you look at most of the games, they're still kind of right there. Like, there was a 9-goal game, a 10-goal game, a 12-goal game. Like, still pretty positive as far as, like, numbers of what we want to accomplish. Again, I think some of the goals we're letting up might be mental lapses and kind of, like, not so much teams beating us, but kind of us beating ourselves. So, again, just one thing we kind of preach is, like, every time we get on that floor, it's that 30 seconds, that 60 minutes of, like, focus the whole time. I think when we do that, we prove that we're one of the best defenses in the league.
One of the things that this defense also shows is the transition game. When you guys do score from the defensive end, it often puts a good win in the category for this team. I mean, how much is that a focus for the defensive end, getting up in transition and working through between the restraining lines?
Yeah, it's a huge part of our game. Obviously, we have, you know, a bunch of guys, you know, close to 10 goals now, and I think we just earn it, right? I don't think we really cheat, and I think just those guys are so talented once they get the ball over half that kind of we have a bunch of guys that score a bunch of goals, but anyone can kind of score goals back there. So I think we just work hard, get the ball, run up, and then, you know, the transition is there when we get a chance.
You look at your season right now at 9-6, and while it's been 3 losses that fans might be a little disappointed about, you look back to, I mean, last year at this time, and it's the 4-14 team. How different is it just to be still 9-6 in comparison to that last year?
Yeah, it's obviously huge, you know, and the funny thing is we're not happy being 9-6. We think we could be way better than what we are, but again, obviously last year, the year before that, it's way different, but it shows kind of the different mindset. Like, we're not happy being 9-6. We think we should be better, and again, we have a chance to kind of continue what we have and improve on that record, so we'll see what happens.
Piggybacking off of that, I mean, you've been around for a long time, and you're the captain of this team. How do you keep these guys relaxed so they don't put unneeded pressure on themselves, but also realize the situation that you do need to still win to get in?
Yeah, I think, again, it kind of comes down to just doing the right things all the time. Again, we kind of preach, like, little things that lead to big things. So, you know, not skipping over stuff we need to accomplish out there on the floor, whether that's running off the floor hard, running on the floor hard, setting hard picks, the things that accomplish goals and accomplish not getting goals against us. I think when you are an athlete and you kind of do the little things over and over again, that's how you accomplish big things.
When you take a look at their offense, and you talked about they've had so many changes, even from last year to earlier this year, just last couple weeks, they've had so many moving parts on offense. How difficult is it for you guys as a defense to kind of game plan for their offense because they've had so many moving parts?
Yeah, it is tough. I mean, again, you look at a little bit of video, but sometimes there's not a ton of video on some of these guys. Some guys are playing first game, second game, third game, so there's not like a ton of tendencies you can really pick up on. So what you kind of rely on is like what we accomplish as a defense. What was our identity as a defense? So we, again, even though we game plan for a bunch of different players in all this league, there's stuff we want to accomplish and there's principles we want to do. So again, we kind of want to force them, no matter who it is, into like what we want to accomplish.